Right, so John Medina is a developmental molecular biologist who studies how the brain develops and learns over time. In Brain Rules for Baby, he used scientific research to explain how children's brain grow from birth to about age 5. Medina's goal is to make complex brain science easier to understand for parents, teachers, and caregivers. He connects research on brain development with everyday parenting practices, showing how early experiences, emotional security, and relationships influence how children learn and grow. Throughout the book, Medina emphasized that love and interactions, safe environments, and meaningful learning uh, play a major role in helping children develop healthy brains and succeed later in life.
Okay. So a few key points of our book. He divided it into seeds and soil. So there were like the seeds if you have a healthy mom and approaching things with empathy. And then when the baby feels safe, it lets them learn. And in order to do that, the soil will be to prioritize some face time and limit screens that helps support cognitive development. And then there was a soil of like friendship is the best predicting thing for a happy child. And in order to help really solidify being able to make friends in those relationships, labeling your emotions and increasing emotional intelligence was another key point. And then the last key point was the moral baby. So developing consistent, firm, warm discipline would help encourage morality. And then the last thing he talked about was sleep training and doing what works best for your family. So those were some of the key points of our book.
So the purpose of our book, it's being willing to enter into your child's world on a regular basis, to emphasize what your child is really feeling, and you make sure to always start with empathy. You focus on emotions, pay attention to your child, because every child in the end is different. What works with one might not work with the other. So it helps parents understand how a baby's brain grows, develops from pregnancy throughout the years. And they also explain how everyday parenting choices and interactions can support healthy brain development. This also does encourage parents to start with empathy and try to understand what their child is feeling and emphasize the importance of paying attention to the child's emotion and building strong and supportive relationship. And this also really reminds the parents that every child is different, so all the parenting strategies may not work for the same child. And overall, this book does guide parents to connect with their child, respond to their emotions, and create a nurturing environment that helps the baby and the brain grow and learn.
The first major issue that we chose is that relationships are crucial to brain development. Medina talks about how parenting is all about developing human hearts and that only 15% of the parenting is going to affect your child's IQ, the others built in. He talked about how learning is relational in its most primitive form. That is the way it works, and how safety is the brain's number one thing that they want to do. It wants to survive, and safety is how it does that. So if a baby feels safe and emotionally stable, that's when they are going to thrive. If babies don't grow up in an emotionally stable home, they're not able to regulate their emotions very well, and their academic performance will suffer. Medina actually said that they have on average 8 points less on their IQ, and they have a higher high school dropout rate. Some ways to make sure your relationships are being improved are by paying attention to your child. Make sure you're consistently interacting and just talking with your baby. That's going to help all those neural pathways really develop strong and positive connections. And then another way to increase your relationship is to accurately learn how to verbalize your feelings. That will help the child learn to focus better, help them build friendships, and help them self-soothe. And then he talked about um, those verbalizing feelings help calm the central nervous system of the child. And it also calms the parent's central nervous system as well. So both of you guys can really connect. And then parents can rewire their baby's brains with a secure relationship. And this Know Your Child's Post-it notes, it talks about how babies are preloaded with emotions, which are like post-it notes that tell them to pay attention. And if you know what your kids' tags are and what emotional reactions they have, and you can respond to specific ways, that's part of that attachment process. And it's one of the big secrets to raising healthy kids. And then critiquing this method, based on our book, we learned that neurotransmitters are secreted in infants that have positive, secure attachments. So that factors into what he said. It induces a sense of well-being and reinforces those pathways, just like Medina told us. There's also, quote unquote, a dynamic relationship between the care an infant receives and his or her brain growth. So we find that in our book as well. If the baby doesn't have any attachment, some things can happen. Harlow did an experiment with the rhesus monkeys, and when they didn't have attachment to a caregiver, they were unsocial, aggressive, indifferent, and didn't mate at all. And the same is seen in children. If they don't securely attach, they don't complain, they'll just become passive. So just like the monkeys did, they didn't have any connection. And the last thing that I found was a Harvard study of adult development, which is one of the longest studies ever, over 80 years, found that the key to healthy aging is relationships, relationships, relationships. So that's another um, evidence that it matches the book.
Another key point that we also found in a big major issue is discipline effectiveness. So discipline should focus on teaching and guiding children, not just punishing them. The children learn best when parents stay calm and respond with empathy. Consistent rules and clear expectations help children understand what behavior is appropriate and what isn't. Positive discipline, such as explaining, redirecting, modeling good behavior, helps children learn self-control. Harsh punishment can increase fear and stress, which may negatively affect a child's brain development. And effective discipline builds trust, emotional security, and strong parent-child relationships. And the critique method, the book does use research from neuroscience, psychology, and child development to explain how children learn and grow. But John Medina, our author, explains complex brain research in simple language so that parents can easily understand it. And many examples and real-life parenting situations help connect the research to everyday family life. But, however, some ideas are based on general research and may not always apply the same way to every child or their family. The book does focus strongly on emotional connection and empathy, but some readers may feel like it gives fewer steps, step-by-step strategies, or for difficult behaviors. But overall, the methods are helpful because they combine scientific research with practical parenting advice.
All right. So another major issue discussed in the book is the importance of emotional safety in early childhood. The author explains that children learn best when they feel secure and supported. According to neuroscience research, a child's brain is highly sensitive to stress during the early years of life. When children experience constant fear, their bodies release stress hormones. High levels of those hormones over time can negatively affect brain development. On the other hand, when children feel emotionally safe, their brains are more open to learning and exploration. Simple everyday interactions, such as comforting a child, responding to their needs, maintaining predictable routines, and communicating, help children feel secure. When children trust that adults will support them, they become more confident in exploring their environment. Medina argues that this emotional foundation is one of the most important factors shaping a child's cognitive and social development. Right. For critique, the idea of emotional safety in this book is aligns closely with our textbook. Our textbook also emphasizes the importance of responsive caregiving and secure attachment. Because when caregivers respond consistently to infant signals, children develop a sense of trust and security. This emotional foundation supports healthy social relationships and emotional regulation. However, these two books approach the topic from different perspectives. While Medina provides scientific explanations, our textbook offers concrete examples of how caregivers can create emotional supportive environments in everyday practice. Together, these perspectives reinforce the same conclusions. Emotional safety and strong caregiver relationships are essential for healthy early child development.
Okay, lastly, we have about a minute left. Our overall opinion and recommendation. Overall, it is presented and is appropriate in lines with research. However, I would not recommend the book because the best nuggets were hidden between a lot of long personal stories and random analogies. I was also sort of appalled how he used weight as an analogy for IQ, and he stated people with autism can't detect changes in emotional states. I felt like it was too long for exhausted parents, and there were better options.
I agree. So it's like overall, it's like there are valuable insights in this book, but also I would prefer to see more practical advices day to day we can use in to help our children to develop better.
There's definitely a lot of resources out there that can help the parents, but definitely this book is not one that I would also recommend. And there are many other great, like I said, resources, but some parts were difficult to understand in this book, so we don't recommend.
Yeah.
Yes. And thank you so much. Here are references for you to look at. And thank you so much for watching.